In the gospel music industry, Bill Gaither and his spouse have stood for decades as a testament to faith, love, and commitment. Millions had been impacted by their music, which had bolstered the faith of innumerable listeners and provided solace to those in need. Together, they created a friendship that influenced many people in addition to leaving a musical legacy. Their steadfast devotion to one another, their love of gospel music, and the way they always appeared to tackle life's obstacles together were all praised by their admirers. Suddenly, however, there was an announcement that nobody had anticipated. The devastating news that Bill Gaither's wife, who had supported him through all of his highs and lows, shared shocked their loyal fan base. It wasn't merely a brief comment or another update. It was something much more intimate, something that could alter everything. There was an unsettling quiet among their fans as soon as the news was released. Messages of prayer, worry, and unending conjecture were all over social media. What had taken place? Was she all right? Was it their family, her health, or something more unthinkable? Although the gatherings had never discussed their personal difficulties in public, the weight of what she had said this time could not be avoided. Everyone had more questions than answers as the news went viral. In the hopes that it was all a misunderstanding, several supporters refused to accept it. Others prepared for the worst since they thought this declaration would signal the start of a difficult new phase in their life. Whatever the facts, one thing was for sure. With a single devastating disclosure, Bill Gaither's wife had completely transformed everything, and everyone was eager to hear the whole tale. At last, the time came. Known for her kindness and grace, Bill Gaither's wife came out to the world to break her devastating news. Her remarks bore the weight of something that had been hard to speak aloud, whether they were delivered in a written statement, a very personal interview, or an emotional video message. She said, "It is not easy for me to talk about this, but I owe it to all of you, our friends, our family and faith, and everyone who has supported us over the years." In a shaky but steady voice, she paused and took a long breath to regain her power. With her, the entire world appeared to hold its breath, and then she spoke the truth. It might have been a personal hardship that had been kept a secret for too long, an unforeseen health issue, or a loss that had rocked their family. Whatever it was, nobody had expected it, and it caused pain to even the most resilient people. She went on, her eyes displaying a mix of anguish and fortitude. "I never thought I would have to share something like this, but I believe in honesty, in faith, and in the power of prayer, and right now, we need your prayers more than ever." Messages of love and support flooded in as her remarks resonated with many who had been following the gatherings for years. Social media was used by friends, fans, and musicians from many walks of life to share their prayers, thoughts, and steadfast faith that Bill Gaither and his wife would not have to endure whatever came next alone. Some were so shocked that they repeatedly read her statement in the hopes that they had misinterpreted it. Others were moved to tears as they reflected on the significance of the gatherings for them through their music. Others just prayed because they knew that faith was the only thing that could provide solace at such times. This announcement was more than simply an announcement for Bill Gaither and his spouse. It was a time of openness, honesty, and faith in the very individuals who had supported them for so long. The news was devastating, but it also served as a reminder of the love and faith that had always supported them. Nobody had any idea what lay ahead. However, one thing was for sure. Everything had changed after this realization. The world was now watching to see how the crowds would react to the upcoming rout. Bill Gaither's wife was not the only one who had to bear the consequences of the discovery. Their entire family was affected, upending the foundation they had accumulated over the years. Bill has been performing songs of hope and faith on stage for decades. The challenge, however, was now personal. He needed to gather the courage to face the storm that was at his door this time. A man whose music had inspired millions, Bill Gaither had always been a rock of faith. Those closest to him noticed something different in his eyes as the news sunk in, something more profound than sadness. It was the expression of a man struggling with the knowledge that words alone are insufficient to win some conflicts. He had always been viewed by his supporters as tough and unflinching. However, there are times when even the strongest men feel helpless. The Gaither family huddled together behind locked doors, supporting one another. The community that had supported them for years, together with their children and closest friends, rallied around them. It was more than a personal trial. It was an event that would put their faith, fortitude, and capacity to maintain hope even in the most dire circumstances to the test. Bill's reaction to the news was subdued yet impactful. He did not scream in exasperation or withdraw into quiet. Rather, he resorted to faith, the one thing that had led him throughout his life. He prayed, he thought, and when he spoke, his words were full of appreciation and love. He informed a close friend, "We've always thought that faith isn't just for the good times. It's for the times when you have faith that God knows what is ahead, even though you don't." Supporting messages poured in over the next few days. Other gospel musicians contacted out, giving their own stories of adversity and resiliency, as well as words of consolation. Supporters sent their prayers and encouragement through letters, emails, and social media posts. In ways they could never have predicted, the Gaithers were suddenly receiving the love they had given the world for so long. However, the truth persisted, despite all the assistance. Everything had changed. Their once certain future was now tainted with doubt. Would they carry on with their work as usual? Or would they have to leave the stage, even only temporarily, due to this devastating news? Not even Bill and his wife knew the answer yet. But one thing was obvious: their narrative did not finish here. They had dedicated their lives to singing about faith, the strength of love and belief, and conquering obstacles. They would now have to live up to those words in a way they never would have imagined. They were aware that they wouldn't be able to handle this new chapter alone. They had their family, they had each other, and millions of people believed in them and supported them without question. The Gaithers would confront whatever lay ahead. The gospel music community and their loyal fans were rocked when Bill Gaither's widow broke her devastating news. The Gaithers had served as an inspiration for decades. Their music is a source of trust and hope. The very individuals they had inspired were now witnessing one of the most trying times in their life. The reaction was swift and tremendous. Social media was inundated with love, care, and steadfast support from fans, as people from all around the world posted their prayers and thoughts. Hashtags like #FaithOverFear and #PrayerForts started to trend. Some people shared touching posts about how the music of the Gaithers had gotten them through their worst moments. Some merely expressed their affection, letting the family know they weren't fighting this war alone. Churches held services where they lit candles and prayed for them. Legendary and up-and-coming gospel musicians shared their own experiences of how Bill and his wife had influenced their lives in memorial posts. While some spoke out in public, calling on the community to unite in support, others reached out personally with words of consolation. The impact the gatherings have had on my life and work is beyond words. In a video message, one well-known gospel artist said, "Through their religion and music, they have given us all so much. It's time for us to return the favor by praying for them and supporting them throughout their most trying times." Even people outside the gospel community paid attention. News organizations reported on the incident, emphasizing the affection that the gatherings were getting. The overwhelmingly positive response demonstrated how well they had bonded with their audience, as individuals who had devoted their lives to promoting love and religion, not just as musicians. However, there was also sadness within the solidarity. After years of following their journey, fans found it difficult to accept the news. "It seems intimate. Bill and his wife have been a part of my life for so long," one devoted fan commented. "Both my mother's funeral and my wedding featured their tunes. It's really unbelievable that they're going through this." The Gaither family was surrounded by an unwavering sense of faith despite the tragedy. "God is with them," writes an admirer. "Just like their music has reminded us all these years, He never leaves us, even in the hardest times." The support remained constant as the days passed. Gifts, letters, and cards came flooding in. Before performances, concertgoers joined in a collective prayer. As a reminder of the strength of faith in the midst of hardship, gospel radio stations played classic tunes dedicated to the couple. Bill and his wife experienced the love that surrounded them throughout it all. One thing was certain, even though the path ahead was still unclear, they weren't alone on their journey. Their faith, their supporters, and their community would serve as their beacons. The legacy of the Gaither was already ingrained in the hearts of millions, regardless of what lay ahead. They were confident that their music, like the prayers of their supporters, would get them through this new phase. Bill Gaither and his wife found themselves at a crossroads in the days after the devastating announcement. Their lives have been devoted to using music to share their faith, and their inspirational and tenacious lyrics have touched the hearts of innumerable others. However, as they confronted this intensely personal obstacle, the question still stood: what would happen next? It was unthinkable for Bill to leave the music. He had always used music to digest life's hardships and to heal others as well as himself. But he felt that something had to change because of the burden this realization was placing on him. Would they keep on performing? Would they pause to concentrate on their faith and family? There was no way to expedite these decisions. Bill Gaither finally addressed the topic that was on everyone's mind in an emotional statement to his followers. His remarks were brimming with appreciation. It was tinted with the feelings of a man confronting the future. Throughout our lives, we have shared songs about love, faith, and the fortitude that God bestows upon us throughout trying times. He wrote that we are now more in need of that strength than ever before. Although we have no idea what the future will bring, we do know this: we're not by ourselves. There are no words to describe the comfort your prayers, love, and steadfast support have brought us. He continued by saying that they will be taking some time to prioritize their health and family for the time being. There was only a silent pledge to rely on faith and live each day as it comes, with no dramatic exits or final goodbyes. Supporters responded with empathy and understanding. Everyone understood that even the strongest people occasionally need to rest, yet nobody wanted to see them go. Encouragement messages kept coming in, telling them that they had done so much for the world and that it was now time for them to be loved in return. Their music reverberated even after they took a step back. Churches performed their hymns, radio stations played their tunes, and individuals discovered new meanings in lyrics they had heard for years. Until now, I had no idea how much his life meant. According to one admirer, their music has always been about having faith in God during adversity. We now have the opportunity to remind them of the same reality. Bill and his spouse still had a long way to go. Maybe they would be stronger than ever when they took the stage again, or perhaps they would manifest themselves in a different way in the gospel world. Sharing their narrative of faith through the most difficult times in life is more important than performing. One thing was certain: regardless of what lay ahead, the stage, the albums, and the accolades did not define their legacy. It was characterized by the unshakable faith they had lived by, the lives they had transformed, and the hearts they had touched. And that legacy would last forever, no matter where life led them.